Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Lovely to see you. We're still in Luke's Gospel. We're in chapter 7, verses 1 to 10. And it's going to be worth having your Bible open for the next few days, because we're going to look at this story and think about several things, several different aspects of it, because it's a very profound story. It's a story of a centurion who had a slave who was sick and dying, and he sent the elders of the Jews to Jesus to ask him to come and heal his slave. And they came to Jesus and they tried to argue for this man's worthiness for Jesus to do something for him. Jesus starts to go with them to the house, and the centurion sends his friends to him to tell him, don't come into my house. I'm not worthy for you to come into my house. Just say the word and my servant will be healed. And he speaks about authority. He says, I'm a man under authority with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. To my slave, do this, and he does it. And Jesus marveled at his faith. Now, do read it for yourself in full. It is a wonderful story. There's a parallel story in Matthew, but in Matthew's story, the centurion himself comes to Jesus and speaks directly to Jesus. So here we have the centurion. Now, I just want to start with the idea of the centurion. We did have a series, didn't we, on the armour of God, from the armour that the the Roman legionary would wear. Now, this is a centurion. So we're dealing with a Roman here. This is not a Jew. This is not a person similar to the disciples of Jesus. And that's my first thought for today, is that this man was not under the old covenant. This man was an officer of the invading power in control of the area of Palestine at that time, part of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire at that time stretched as far as England, because Caesar had come to England in the 1st century BC. So we hadn't got Hadrian's Wall yet. That wasn't built until a century or so later. But here the Romans were in occupation, and it was peaceful. There were no wars going on at the moment round the empire, and in every part of the empire there were soldiers in garrisons to keep the peace. It was called the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. And the Roman occupation is very important for our understanding of the New Testament, because without the Roman occupation, the gospel of Jesus would not have spread so easily around the world. The Romans occupied every country round the Mediterranean, and travelling was very easy. You didn't need a passport. You didn't need to change your language, because the common language throughout the empire was not Latin, as you might think, the Roman language. It was Greek, what we call New Testament Greek, because, of course, the Greek people speak Greek today, and their Greek today is as closely related to New Testament Greek as our English is to Shakespearean English. It's the same, but it's different. The Greek language had come because the Greek Empire had preceded the Roman Empire and conquered large parts of the known world, and they used their language in all things, and people had to learn Greek in order to carry on business and to deal with authority, and it was a well-known language. So there was a language common to the whole Roman Empire, which was Greek, and there was a peace that reigned because of the Romans. Now, there were people in every conquered nation who hated the Romans, but there was obvious interaction between the local authorities, who were allowed to rule the indigenous people according to their customs, but overarching it all was the rule of Rome. And we see Paul appealing to Caesar when his case couldn't be sorted out locally, or he thought it couldn't be so. He thought he was in danger of dying. That's at the end of Acts. And we see him appealing to the highest authority of the empire, which was Caesar himself, who lived in Rome, of course. So Paul ends up in Rome. But here we have the Roman centurion. He was a Roman. He was in charge of, we might think a centurion must be in charge of 100 men, but actually a century of men was something around about 80 men. I don't quite know why the numbering got changed, or I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I know that he would have had control and power over, and had a fort near to where he lived in Capernaum, which would have housed 100 men, 80 men. Sorry, I keep saying 100, but it's not. It's about 80 men. And he was their authority. He was to them like a mini king. He had absolute power over his troops. And if there was trouble anywhere, he would simply send his troops to sort it out, or he would lead them and they would go and sort it out. He was a very powerful figure in local society. But he was Roman. He was Roman, he was not Jewish. And as a Roman, it was against the Jewish law for Jews to associate with Gentiles, as what they called Gentiles. That was non-Jews. And of course, as a Roman, he was a non-Jew. But so the elders, he obviously had a very good relationship with the elders in Capernaum, because they come first to Jesus to ask him to go and see this Roman and heal his slave. So this is a wonderful thought, that here is Jesus' first known to us, the first time that he is doing something and for a person who isn't a Jew, demonstrating that he has come to save everybody. And he's doing something for someone who is very powerful. And he's not doing it to get power, to get position, to earn anything. He's doing it because he's been asked. So think about the Romans. If you want to do a little bit of research on the Romans, do. It'll be good to have a bit of research if you have a chance. Look at the Centurion, look at his situation and his power and so on. Look it up. When I was a child, I had to go to the library to get books to look up things about the Romans, but you can look it up online. Look up Roman Centurion and have a read during today, and I'll see you tomorrow.